Good morning, traders. Paul here with GammaEdge. Today is Tuesday, the 28th of June. Let's get started. Go ahead, pause your players. Please read this. It's important to you. It's important to us. Starting with the market model, across the board, still not getting the breadth that we would like to see, although it's improving, of course, compared to mid of last week. We did have on Friday a good takeoff in the morning with the filtered cumulative tick. This is showing some pretty strong buying by large players, but you can see yesterday fairly weak. We did take off a little bit and then it just stabilized through the day. No directionality, nothing. When we take a look at the SPX, which is superimposed on here, you can see that it's a really tight range. No pressure either way. We were more or less coasting. We have a couple things to show on that. From the CT perspective, the cumulative tick perspective, this white line didn't really advance. The key takeaway for all of this is that we didn't see a lot of buying, of course, from the institutions or let alone the markets, and we're just kind of coasting probably into the 4th of July weekend or into the news cycle. Taking a look at the index condition, the overall takeaway is that we're seeing downside puts being added, which is adding to the negative gamma condition. We do see instances, though, where we're seeing calls being added, which is adding to the positive gamma. So it's worth noting. It's not strong. We're not overly bearish or bullish here. I think that's important. Note that we did have the zero move up in the SPY, which is good. Does indicate that we do have some closing of puts going in and new puts being opened since we had this increase. But the zero, the balance point, has moved up in the overall transition, and that's important. Same thing on the Qs. You can see that we actually had some calls added, even though we dropped in the overall net gamma, so this was more or less pushed outward. And you can see that the zero gex also moved up. The black dot signifies where we're at, and you can see we're very, very close to a zero, which is a transition point. IWM, no demand on the upside. We are seeing downside protection being added. Volatility did see some puts being added in the form of short-term gamma. Again, we don't believe necessarily that the VIX plays the same rules as gamma in general, but it's good to visualize it using the same tools just so that we know what we're looking at. Just remember to flip how you view the presentation, because we expect to see calls in a bearish environment and puts in a bullish environment. You can see in terms of overall volatility, the VIX has been dropping, and we do expect that trend to continue, at least for this week, and perhaps over the July 4th week, but we'll have to see what happens with the JPM roll. Near-term expiries, pretty ill-defined here on the SPX. This is the only 0 DTE. These are all 1 DTEs. The black dot signifies where we are at in terms of our closing price, and you can see that we're above the zero. We're above key level here in IWM, above the zero and above key levels here. We also call this between the goalposts. Not a lot of pressure going on here. These will settle in equity tomorrow. The SPX settles in cash today. Very, very small scale here. Not a very strong player today. One of the key takeaways for you is that we are seeing a lot of puts being added. I've highlighted that. You can see the distribution. This is the SPX, the SPY, the Qs, and the IWM. And you can see that we're getting a disproportionate amount of puts being added. And when they're being added, we think that's significant and something to pay attention to. The SPX structure for today, really the only notable change is that we did have a drop in what we call minus trans. Minus trans is the level, the strike at which it and all the strikes below it are net negative gamma. When we see this dropping, that means we've had puts close or calls open above it. And since this came down from 3,800, this is generally a bullish indication. It's weak. Nothing else really here is supporting of that. And I will highlight that we've got noise going on. When you see down one day or up one day, these are flipping back and forth. So they're not really moving. These are the zeros of the complex. We measure these different ways, and also whether it's the AM settled or the PM settled. The key takeaway for you, though, is that we're right in the middle of this transition area where we've got these zeros bouncing around, and there's not a lot of pressure. Dealer, if hedged, which we have to presume they are right now, there's not a lot of pressure, and you're going to see that here on the next slide. We did have a question come up in the Discord about why we're pinned at 3,900. I did post something up on Twitter. I urge everyone to go look at that. This is today's chart before the open. And yesterday we basically had this little crossing point sitting right here at 3,900. You can see with the overnight exposure and the gamma model is showing that we actually have had this transition upward. We are watching for a shift upward, minor shift from 3,900 up to about 3,925. To see if we follow this, each of these lines is an expiry date. So the gray is today, green is tomorrow, red is, let's see, what is that? Red is on the 29th, end of day. And then the blue will be on Thursday. The key takeaway for everyone here is that with this gamma model, we're relatively flat. You can see how flat the red line gets as we move into the JPM expiry on Thursday. And that means effectively the dealers are somewhat invariant of time, of charm, and we think that could be a player here going into the expiry. 0 DTE today, extremely weak. We don't expect a lot of influence from the 0 DTE. I will note your eyes should be able to see these transition areas that I've called out here. Again, not seeing a lot of structure one way or the other, and as a result, we don't expect a lot push from the 0 DTE, but just be aware of it. The combo, which is the AM and the PM, settled. Key takeaway, still very net negative gamma. That's not as big a deal as some people, some sites would make it to be. In the short term, we're sitting right here at this yellow line that you can see. We're right at this transition area. Gamma below this is fairly substantially negative. Above this, it turns positive. You can see very loose, very ugly structure here. This is not supportive to an advance upward that'll hold with any length of time. We do need to see calls being added out and up. I note the 4,000 strike here. What we're looking at is a very dominant POI, which is the put open interest, and COI, call open interest for the expiry. 41 billion sitting there in terms of net delta. I don't think we're going across 4,000 anytime soon. To the downside, 3,900's really got to hold a fairly large value there. And if we lose that, it opens up this area down here, which is on the half level, and then all the way on down to 3,800. So just be aware of that. This is probably one of the more telling pictures. This is the entire SPX structure. Look at 4,200. It has grown, so we are seeing some calls go in, even though we didn't advance significantly yesterday. This is what I want to draw your eye to. It's right here. We are seeing a significant growth of the downside put protection across all major Livermore levels, the 3,600, 37, 38, 3,900 levels. We're sitting right here at 39, as everyone knows. You can see we've got some other transition points to get through. We're getting a little more definition here in the positive gamma. That's good. If we can get into this area, we'll probably start pulling ourselves north and see the puts being closed, especially as we walk up. They'll go from being in the money to out of the money, and I think that's a big deal. So watch this, pay attention to this, but for right now, the downside, we're becoming very, very downside heavy, and I think that's significant. And this is really confirmed by the wing charts and everything we saw there. So what's the takeaway? The market models are slightly bullish, but are not strong. So we are seeing, with the signal on Friday, we saw a little more confirmation yesterday, but very little movement in that area. We think they are prone to failure right now. The structure is just really poor overall for the SPX. We are seeing that mixed conflicting flows where we've got puts going in, but we also have some calls going in. We are not expecting a lot of open high-low close. A lot of people do close. We're looking at this from an open high-low close volatility. We're not expecting the intraday range to move a lot. Our spot price is sitting squarely within the zeros in the SPX and indicates very little pressure one way or the other. The market model, longer term, we're still inverted, downward slopes, bearish, we're weekly improving. Everyone should understand that. If you don't, come on in the Discord and ask questions because that's important. Shorter term, we do have a new long signal, but it's weak and it's prone to failure, as I said up here. Don't get out over your skis. We think that's pretty important. The wing charts are mixed, as I said. Multi-day upside target, I don't see us getting above 4,000. I think 39 has to hold where we are right now, and if we lose that, the half-level support down through 38 is probably realistic. Our SPX toy model, thanks Jim Carson, who said in one of his podcasts that these toy models are they're good if they get you 70% of the way where you want to go, and we think our toy model gets us at least 70% of where we want to go. So the SPX toy model indicates continued pinning. We don't have any outside stimulus really. We got some news coming in the next couple of days, but in general, we think the 630 roll is going to be the dominant thing. So that's it for today. If you like today's content, please come join us at GammaEdge.us. That'll get you to a sign-up page. It'll take you into the Discord. 14-day free trial, all the tools turned on, and really would welcome you to come in, ask questions, participate. We got a lot of great traders, a lot of great learning going on. Gamma Edges on Twitter with an S, and YouTube. If you like today's content, smash that like button. Please follow us so you can get notified next time we post some content. So make it a great Tuesday, everyone. Sorry for the raspy voice. Got COVID, and so kind of struggling through this right now. So hopefully the dialogue today was clear and you're able to follow along. If not, just come over into the Discord, ask questions, and I'm sure someone will be able to address it. So thanks, everyone. Have a great one.